I've got two Jackeries here, and I'm going to be hooking two 100-watt solar panels up to each of them. On the left here, I've got a 500-watt Jackery, and on the right, I've got a 1,000-watt Jackery. Typically, the 500-watt Jackery is made for only 100-watt panel, but it will take up to 30 volts. From what I understand, there's an internal protection against amps. So the main concern is to keep it under 30 volts. A 100-watt panel is about 21 volts, possibly 18. If you hook them in series, it adds a voltage, so you'll get 36 to 44 volts, which is over the limit, so you don't want to do that. But if you hook them in parallel, it works to get you more wattage during the day. I've got two cords coming in from outside that each are connected to a 100-watt panel, and then I've connected it to this Y connector. So that's putting them in parallel. In parallel. So if I unplug just the left panel and just run 100 watt, let's see what it does. Okay, it takes it down to 7 watts. Now let me plug in the left and plug in the right one only. Unplug the right. That gives us 6 watts. Let me plug them both in again. And we're back up to 12 and 13 watts. When you do that, you get the same thing with the 1000. I did this on a bright and sunny day yesterday, and it was pulling about 120 watts on the 1000, and when I plugged it in to the 500, it went down to 74. So that's why I think the Jackery 500 has a built-in protection that only allows the Jackery to pull in about 75 watts. Okay, it's a few minutes later, and I'm getting just a little bit more sun. Now I've got both 100-watt panels plugged in. I'm going to unplug the left one. And you see it went from 35 to 14. Now I'm going to plug the left one back in and unplug the right one. Okay, so now we're getting 18. So they're not always even. They just happen to be even today. But it just depends on where the sun's at. I'll plug it back in. It went from 20 back to 35, and that's the way it does on the 500. I'll move this plug over to the 500. Okay. And we got the same scenario. So it doesn't matter how bright the sun is. You're not going to hurt putting two 100-watt panels in parallel onto this 500 Jackery. So the reason it limits it to 75 watts is it doesn't want it to go over 3.5 amps. Now the 1000 has twice the amperage. It has actually a little more. It's 7.5 amps. So those parameters are always on the bottom of the Jackery. So here you can see it on the bottom of the 1000, and It's the 6th line down, and it says DC input 12 to 30 volts, 7.5 amps. And I've been told the voltage that you want to look at is the VOC voltage on the panel. The VOC, so don't go over 30 volts on the VOC. Okay, this is the bottom of the 500 Jackery, and it's the 3rd line down. It's the charge input, DC input, 24 volts, 3.75 amps. Supports 12 to 30 volts DC.